It is May 1st. We are no longer in NFL draft month, but we are still talking about the NFL draft. And those who are not drafted, I'm Zach Berman. That's Fran Duffy. You are watching the PHLY Eagles Show. We are brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Fran, April was your month, man. Like, you were all over April, and here we are in May, and we're talking about the draft, but we're talking about players who went undrafted. So as if you didn't have enough players on your docket during the past X amount of months, now you have to go back and rewatch film of players who did not get picked. How have you handled these past 3-4 days?
It's honestly, it's kind of fun because I'm not doing like full scouting reports on these players. It's honestly, it's because with all these players, all right, I want to be able to squint and see like, what is the best case scenario, right? Like, well, what's the case for this player trying to contribute to make the team or make the practice squad? So I can watch a pass rusher. I'm like, all right, let me just watch all of his pressures and all of his run stops. A wide receiver, let me watch all of his catches or all of his targets, depending on the usage, right? So it makes it a little bit more fun because I'm trying to take more of a positive spin. I'm being realistic, obviously, but the film study is not quite as intensive. I'm writing, one paragraph blurb. So obviously, I knocked the Eagles out first. That got done on Monday, but just getting through and like, all right, let me watch all the Cowboys undrafted free agents, all the Bears, all the Cardinals. So I've been watching a lot of players over the last few days, doing a lot of guys this week, but it's been a fun exercise.
So let's lay this out. Okay, this is the show. I should say our boss Vince, outstanding boss. This is his favorite show of the year. I could tell him we'll be doing a week of Jihad Campbell shows, and he'll say, "What about the undrafted guys?" Vince loves the undrafted free agents. Bo, we miss Bo right now. Can't wait to see him next week. Bo excels in this undrafted show. He always did, extensive write-ups on the undrafted players. So I thought, man, Fran has big shoes to fill. And then yesterday, the piece comes out on allphly.com. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you're a diehard. You know that by now. And I am floored. Fran grinds the film on the undrafted players. As you mentioned, identifies like characteristics. I think you used the term squints to see what would work, even ranks the players as far as how they could, the likelihood to make the team. It's important to lay out here because that piece comes out and you hear messages from people, from readers, viewers. What about player X? What about player Y? This is important to note with the undrafted class.
Yes.
The Eagles will be on the grass tomorrow. They will be practicing tomorrow. The players come in today. Until they sign their contracts, that like the team does not announce it because there are situations where either players back out of deals, something comes up elsewhere, something comes up physically. So these are all reported signings. And then the other part that we should also note is the Eagles can oversign, and that requires them to cut a player on the roster. So there's always roster machinations that happen in the final 24 hours before rookie camp. So that's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is this, that you obviously can't have a full rookie camp with 10 draft picks and 8 undrafted players. There are numbers of tryout players. There's a handful of tryout players. I would say more than a handful, both rookies and veterans who will be on the field tomorrow and Saturday. And the Eagles will probably sign 1 or 2 from that pool of players. And then come training camp, might revert back to that pool of players. So the group that we're talking about today is incomplete, but it does give a good sense of obviously 8 players that the Eagles will have in camp, then 2 additional players that were not in your article that we've learned about since.
Yeah, and that's the thing that gets tricky because so much of this is reliant on what does the player put out? What does the agent put out? Sometimes a player might post on Instagram, like heading to Philly with like emojis and stuff. But does that mean that he got invited to a rookie camp? Does that mean he signed a contract? Does that mean they're talking with him and he's going to sign a contract? But nothing has been like, it's kind of like handshake right now. None of these guys have signed yet. Otherwise, they would have been announced. Now that they're arriving, I would anticipate that if it's not tonight, it'll be first thing tomorrow or midday tomorrow, certainly before they take the field, when the team will make it official. But I can't tell you how many times I was with the Eagles for 12 years where players get like reported as like, oh yeah, they're going to be here as an undrafted free agent, but they're actually only going to be there on a tryout basis. So I tried to hone this list on, I think it was 8 final players that had been reported as like, yeah, that this player is going to sign. Like you said, we had some people in the response, oh, what about this player? What about that player? So I was able to squeeze a couple of those guys in. I know there was one that was late breaking this afternoon. We're seeing a bunch of potential tryout players as well, including one, some guys that were at the combine. But to me, I wanted to kind of keep this to here are the players that it's been reported numerous spots that they're going to sign undrafted free agent contracts.
Exactly. I thought that was important to establish at the top because this is an ambiguous process every year where, for no fault of reporters or people online, people try to get ahead of it, but it is fluid until the player signs their contract because obviously there's other teams involved. There's medical stuff, and there's also the reality of a finite amount of roster spots that teams have to work through here. So that's a preamble. I also think you and I were exchanging texts about it. It's important to note too why this particular show is important for the Eagles and for Eagles fans, and that is the Eagles have a history of keeping undrafted rookies. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that they use this in their pitch to agents. They bring up players in the past who they keep. The Eagles are aggressive in particular with signing bonuses here for undrafted players, and they do that because it offsets against either being on the roster, being on the practice squad. So really what you're gambling is that player is a rosterable player to some degree, and that's why the Eagles are more aggressive with the upfront money for undrafted rookies. So this is all part of their team building strategy. They also are pretty in tune with the strength of the class, and so they have some years where they're heavier in numbers, some years when they're lighter in numbers. And just going through it during my time covering the team, and we can even look at it from the past 10, 12 years. Some of the undrafted players that they've kept. So I'll give these names. I have some through lines, but I'm curious your thought too. Corey Clement, TJ Edwards, Trey Burton, Reed Blankenship, Josh Adams, Matt Tobin, Jack Stoll, Chris Polk, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe. And by the way, this doesn't even get into players like Britton Covey or Greg Ward, who started on the practice squad and then were promoted or elevated. No, I should say promoted thereafter. So the practice squad's part of the tool. You hear Howie Roseman say he doesn't view it as a 53-man roster. He views it as a 69-man roster. And so that kind of gives a good framework of how the Eagles have kept players. Guys like I said, TJ Edwards became a key starter for him, and one of the top linebackers in the league right now. Reed Blankenship, key starter for the Eagles. Corey Clement leads the Eagles in receiving yards in the Super Bowl. So what are there through lines that you see when I mention these names?
Yeah, there's a couple things come to mind, right? And not all of them are universal, but to me, we talked on day 3 this past Saturday about how the Eagles are typically hunting for traits, right? Something unusual, guys that have, one thing that gives them starting potential, gives them that path to becoming an every down player or some kind of impact role player in the NFL. While that is the case, at times with some of these undrafted free agents, you'll see guys like Eli Ricks, who are 5-star recruits, that have pedigree. Typically, this is where you're seeing more of like the high floor type of players, like the quote unquote, like more the football player than the athlete, the TJ Edwards, the Reed Blankenships, the Corey Clements, the Josh Adams of the world, right? Like, so those guys that maybe have some athletic limitations, there are some teams that target those players in the draft. But, one of the things, honestly, I said it to you just before we came on, that's been fascinating about doing the exercise this year. And part of it is just the nature of this draft class in 2025. This draft wasn't great. It wasn't a talented group. But when I'm going through these undrafted free agents, there are not a lot of guys where I'm watching. I'm like, oh, like this guy's got all kinds of traits and there's something to be, it's a lot of ugly profiles, like guys that didn't test well, like had really poor test scores, or maybe like the production just wasn't there and like the testing was just okay. There weren't a lot of like, oh wow, like this guy ran 4.2, he blew up the pro day and then he went undrafted. There just weren't a lot of those guys, which honestly that plays in the Eagles' favor, because these are the kinds of players that they typically have had success shopping with in the past. And you're exactly right, where the Eagles use this in part of the recruiting pitch, even if they have a year like this year where you have 10 draft picks. So if you're an agent and you have a client that goes undrafted, typically a team that has 10, 11 draft picks, you don't want to go there, because those guys are going to have a leg up. Those guys, you want to go to a team like Minnesota or Washington, where you only had 5 draft picks. There's less competition to fight for those available roster spots. But the Eagles consistently have made it a point to allow that path. We're going to keep an open mind for these undrafted free agents. I can remember after the Philly special in February of 2018, it was like, yeah, let's make sure we highlight the fact that the greatest play in Super Bowl history, it's an undrafted free agent tossing the ball to another undrafted free agent, throwing it to Nick Foles, right? And so, you have those connections, and Corey Clement had that unbelievable Super Bowl performance. But across the board, the Eagles definitely place a priority on this part of the team or the player acquisition phase.
You put it better than I could, because when I was looking at the through line, that's absolutely what it is. Is that you heard Howie Roseman on Saturday, and we discussed this, say what he's looking for on day 3 is starters. You're looking for traits that your coach can build up. In the undrafted market, it's the opposite. You're not going to find, if a guy runs a 4.2, typically he's getting drafted, right? Or I should say a 4.3, 4.4. Typically a guy's getting drafted. Hollin Pierce will get to him, but like, you typically don't have a guy with outstanding measurables who is undrafted, right? There. So what you're getting is someone like TJ Edwards, who if you watched, and when I say you, I'm talking to the audience, because I know you, Fran, watched TJ Edwards at Wisconsin. If you watch TJ Edwards at Wisconsin, you're like, that guy's one of the top linebackers in the country. And then you see him run, and you're like, I don't know, he doesn't fit within the framework that you're looking for. Britton Covey, an older player who really productive in college, but older, smaller, so doesn't kind of fit within the framework that teams are looking for there. Reed Blankenship, another example of that. He was a 6-year starter at Middle Tennessee State, right? But doesn't, and he jumps off the film, and you talk to people inside the building, they'll say that. But when you're kind of looking at it and you say, well, does he test well here? He has the injury concern. So that's one thing you see. Sometimes you might see off the field reasons why a player goes undrafted, and so you don't want to spend a pick, but you're doing it that way. But in the Eagles case, it's typically high-performing college players who lack the desired measurements. And then the other thing too, by the way, is this could be coincidence, could not be, but all these players who I mentioned, or I should say most of them, made the team at positions where the starters had expiring contracts, right? So, when Reed Blankenship made the team, the Eagles, there was a lot of uncertainty about the future of the safety position. When Corey Clement made the team, there was uncertainty about the future of the running back position. TJ Edwards made it when there was very unsettled linebacker spot at that time. So the Eagles, now Eli Ricks is a bit of an exception. They're a lineman. It's a bit of an exception, but it doesn't surprise me that a lot of these positions we're talking about are non-premium positions where the Eagles end up keeping these guys, right? Because like your edge rushers, your G tackles, now they've kept your Bruce Hectors of the world, and there's some guys like that who stand out, who make it. But typically you're looking at linebackers, safeties, return specialists they've kept in the past, running backs. Positions like that have jumped out to me in the undrafted market because the Eagles can find value there. And obviously, like you said, those aren't positions where they typically have first-round picks that the undrafted guy has to make it over.
It's a really good point. And again, just trying to find like that value add to the roster. And so again, when you look at it, it's like, all right, maybe this guy can, in Britton Covey's case, we know he can come in, he can be the punt returner. You know, Trey Burton, I know there were special teams roles early on, like just trying to find guys that can come in and there's a pathway to them trying to contribute to the 53-man roster.
So enough preamble here. People want to get into the players. And if you go into PHLY.com, Fran's list is alphabetical. But at the bottom of Fran's list, it's a great way to break it down. He stacks it in terms of who you're most excited about in training camp here. So I really like the category. So we're going to go based on the outlook for the summer. And we'll start with the player that Fran thinks has the best chance of making the 53-man roster. And that is safety Maxen Hook. Fran, sell me on safety Maxen Hook.
Yeah, I mean, this is a player that I studied actually in the fall because he went to the Senior Bowl, and so I wanted to make sure I got his film done before going down to Mobile. And honestly, it's very reminiscent of Reed Blankenship, where this is a guy who comes with plenty of experience. He was a 4-year starter during his time in Toledo, which, by the way, we know the connection with Nick Sirianni with that staff. And then obviously they plucked Quinyon Mitchell, from that team last year. But when you're looking at Maxen Hook, he's just solid across the board. He's not a special athlete, average athlete, tested that way between the combine and the pro day. Nothing eye-popping there, in a positive or negative way. I was honestly shocked that he didn't get drafted. And I think at the end of the day, it was that there was nothing special about his game. And I think when you're looking at it, even just kind of going through my notes, I color code everything, right? So you got the blue for the positives, you got red for the negatives. There's no red in this scouting report. Could he be a little bit more consistent as a tackler? Sure. Could he spare to see things a little bit faster? Definitely. I think that, if I'm comparing him to Reed Blankenship, Reed was a more sure tackler at Middle Tennessee. Reed probably saw things a little bit faster. So I think that's why I probably had just a slightly higher grade. I mean, Reed was a top 12 safety for me when he was coming out of college. This was a guy that I was high on. And Maxen Hook in this class, he was my 11th ranked safety. Wow. This was a guy that was first team All MAC. The production was really good over the course of his career. Played a ton of special teams. I think there's a path to him making this roster. Now, is it a surefire thing? Definitely not. But when you look at we know that what the Eagles lost, at the safety position here this year, we know some of the questions surrounded. They spent a second-round pick on Andrew Makuba. But then I look and I'm like, all right, well, you have Tristan McCollum. He's going to battle the Lewis Seen. He's going to battle Andre Sam, an undrafted free agent last year that stuck with the 69-man roster throughout the course of the season. And then it's Maxen Hook. So to me, it's Maxen Hook with those other 4 players, McCollum, Seen, Andre Sam, competing for 1 spot, maybe 2 spots if you include the practice squad. And I do think that that Hook has a chance to win that job. Yeah.
So a few things there. First off, not just teammates with Quinyon Mitchell, roommates with Quinyon Mitchell. So close connection, the two of them at Toledo. You hit it on the head in terms of the safety depth chart. Barring injury, there's 3 players who I can tell you are going to be on the 53 this year. And barring trade, unless, Sidney Brown's traded, it's going to be Reed Blankenship, Drew Makuba, Sidney Brown. Beyond that, Tristan McCollum's not guaranteed a spot. Lewis Seen's not guaranteed a spot. Andrew Sam's obviously not guaranteed a spot. So there is a pathway to this roster. And the 4th safety position is going to be someone who can contribute on special teams, right? So that's going to be a big part of it. And just from the profile, it seems that's an area where Maxen Hook can help, at least initially as well.
Yeah, and that's where, there was the thing for Reed that allowed him to make it early on, right? Was that he had that ability to help in the 3rd phase of the game. And when I look at Maxen Hook, this is a guy that has played a ton of special teams. So it's not a projection with him moving forward. This is a guy who's been a starter. And when I say core 4, so if you go into the diehard draft guide, you're going to see core 4 guy often. The core 4 special teams are kickoff, kick return, punt return. So, discounting field goal and field goal block, just because those kind of typically is your starters on offense and defense that occupy those spots for the most part. If you're looking just at those core 4 guys who are core 4 units, who are the players that have the ability to start on all 4, Maxen Hook did that at Toledo, and I think he can do that in the NFL.
So Maxen Hook's the most likely. That the next player is a big guy, Hollin Pierce, and we are going to talk about him right after this break. I said May 1st here, and we are talking about Shady Rays. It is sunglass season right now, right? I was out earlier today, and sun's bright. You need to have your sunglasses. Our friends at Shady Rays are helping you get in the right frame of mind with their premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company. It offers a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics, and it makes it the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. It's available in both adult and kid sizes with so many colors. You'll find the size that's perfect for you. But this is the part that I like most about Shady Rays, okay? If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement program. I'm going to just say that again because I could be speaking to myself here. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement program. I'm the kind of sunglass user who sometimes it's in my pocket. The next thing you know, the frame's not right. Well, I know Shady Rays has my back. They will have your back too. So just finishing off here with Shady Rays, it is if you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair, return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. So use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com.
And now we're here from our friends at Pabst Light because we know, look, it's getting warmer outside. Phillies, I'm going to sit back here this tonight. We're going to take in this game against the Nationals. A 6:45 start time. I could sit in my couch right here in my living room and take this game in. What better way to enjoy a baseball game than with a beer at your side? And if I'm going to go with that direction, we're going to go with Pabst Light. Pabst Light is a new light modern beer from Pabst Brewing Company. 96 calories, 3.5 carbs, and full of crisp and refreshing flavor. They used high quality ingredients so you can get that high quality beer at a smart, approachable price. It retains that fun and independent spirit that Pabst is known for, but it's light. Again, you learn more about Pabst Light at pabstlight.com. Please drink responsibly. Must be 21 or older.
All right, let's make sure that you're rating, subscribing, reviewing, commenting, everything here. Leave us super chats. We will get to it. Hit the like button. Jalen Hurts is telling you to do it right there. Julia, as always, outstanding behind the scenes. There's some off the field stuff that we'll get to in this show, but I want to make sure we don't go too long without missing the key players here. So after the next break, I do have a non-football question for you. But right now, and it's more like a life advice question, something I encountered this morning, and I was like, oh, goodness, this is taking a while. Little tease there. Stick around. But the next player here, this is a big dude here. This is a player who, from a size perspective, you would think a draftable player. Hollin Pierce, who he is, you say, talented, but more likely for practice squad than the 53. Discuss with me Hollin Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, this is a former walk-on at Rutgers, has been there for 4 years. And I think when you're looking at, 6'8", 341 pounds, 36-inch arms, and an 88.25-inch wingspan. If he had been drafted, that would have been the greatest wingspan, the largest wingspan of any tackle selected in the last 10 drafts. So this is a big human being. It was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, went to Fork Union Military Academy. Typically that's like an academic qualifier kind of issue. He was for him to get under recruited that way at that size. I know he had weight issues when he was younger, but has done a lot to bounce back from that. And he's done, honestly, it's been remarkable to just see how he has improved over these last couple of years. Everyone I've talked to that has been around Hollin Pierce just raves about him. This is going back earlier in the All-Star process as well. That was when I first got eyes on him. I went down to the Shrine Bowl and he was one of the tackles down there. And you walk up next to him and you're like, man, this kid's obviously ginormous, but you had kind of expectations. All right, this is what he's going to look like in pass pro. He's not going to look great moving in reverse. I was pretty impressed with what he looked like. The guy's just really hard to get around. Is it as good looking as some of these other tackles? No, he's not as athletic as some of the other tackles that he's going to line up with. But at the end of the day, when you've got that length, as long as you are pretty technically sound, you can definitely survive, on the, Fred Johnson is a large human being. He doesn't have the lightest feet in the world, and he does a nice job of being able to maintain. And honestly, when I look at Hollin Pierce, I think he's. I actually wrote down. I actually forgot that I wrote Fred Johnson as a comp for Hollin Pierce after I did my study of him back in the early stages of the offseason. So ironic that he ends up here in Philadelphia. I think when you're looking at him, athletic limitations for sure. The run game, that's an area where he definitely needs to clean up. He has issues with pad level, which means that he's not going to always be able to create that movement you would expect for a guy that big. That's where his height can be a disadvantage at times, but he's got great length. As long as he can just work on continuing to play with better leverage, better hand placement going into contact, there are natural tools there that, again, I was surprised that this kid did not get drafted. The reason why I didn't think that he was going to have the ability to compete for a spot on the 53 was, again, we know that it's a talent, or it's a pretty crowded room right now, offensive line wise. And when you take into account that they drafted Miles Hinton and when they draft Cameron Williams, those guys are gonna start with the pole position for some of those spots, especially considering that you're talking like 5th and 6th round draft choices. I think that Hollin Pierce would have to greatly outperform those two players in order to get a spot on the 53 ahead of them. So that's why I think it's more of a practice squad kind of deal here for Pierce at the end of the day. But he's someone I would definitely not discount.
Yeah, you're right there. Clear impediment to making the roster in terms of they take Miles Hinton, they take Cameron Williams. I don't think the Eagles are going to keep all 10 of their draft picks. So that's something to watch. But similar types of players it's clear Jeff Stoutland has a type, right? It's very seldom we're talking about an undersized tackle in Eagles camp. So the term I've heard Jeff Stoutland use many times over the past 13 years is critical factors. And, I think Hollin Pierce would fit in that category because there's things that he has that you can't teach. So definitely someone to pay attention to, but obviously a crowded depth chart. So let's go next on this list. And this is a category of 3. So I'm going to mention all 3 names and you can kind of tackle them which way you want, which is looking to claw his way on the practice squads. This is wide receiver Taylor Morin, cornerback Brandon Johnson, cornerback BJ Mays. Let's start with the wide receiver, Taylor Morin.
Yeah, this is first we would be remiss if we didn't throw in a Go Deeks there for Bo. This is your Britton Covey archetype, right? This is he's the career leading receiver in Wake Forest history. Played there for 6 years. High volume pass target, but he's short, short arms, 186 pounds. Tested pretty well across the board, like nothing eye-popping. Only just cracked 4.5 in the 40-yard dash. But his shuttle drills were pretty good. His 10-yard split was outstanding. So that shows you like short area explosiveness and lateral quickness, but not long speed. So okay, we get the idea here in terms of like prototypical slot guy, returned punts for each of the last 5 years, and then had a touchdown last year. So he's got some return chops. I thought there were some good flashes as a route runner, whether it was like settling into soft spots in zone coverage or, being able to get DBs turned around, understanding how to attack leverage. Like he's a pretty savvy route runner. He's not going to be like this, super dynamic yards after catch weapon with the ball in his hands, but certain kind of receiver. Like this is the Britton Covey archetype.
Yeah, I thought Britton Covey, and you wrote this in your write-up. I thought Britton Covey was better coming out of college than.
Yes, I agree.
Is it Morin or Morin?
I think it's Morin, but don't quote me on that.
All right, so Morin. So, but the resistance to making the roster here is not as great as it is in other spots. You mentioned it in your write-up. You're absolutely right. Ainias Smith is the guy he's competing with here. Now,
yes,
the Eagles like Ainias Smith. They invested a 5th-round pick in him last year. They kept him on the roster for a reason. But that's kind of the spot that he's going after. So now let's look at the 2 corners, and we can put these corners together, and that is Brandon Johnson and BJ Mays.
Yeah, we'll go to Brandon Johnson at Oregon. He was a 4th-year senior, so a younger senior. Spent his first 3 years at Duke, then transferred to Oregon this past year for his final season. He spent most of his time in his career in the slot, and he's built like a slot corner, 5'9", 179 pounds. He's got short arms. This was not like a big-time like athletic tester. It was a 3-star recruit, and again, like trait-wise, like they kind of are what they are. The testing was just okay across the board. I felt that he read things pretty well well, from off coverage when he was attacked down the field. This was not a guy that like panicked at the catch point. There weren't a lot of penalties. I thought he did a nice job in terms of, being able to find the football and trying to attack it. Very active blitzer, had 8 career sacks in his career. I thought he was pretty scrappy. At the end of the day, like, Mac McWilliams is definitely far ahead of this guy. But as I was watching him, they did a lot of different like coverage rotations and disguises where, all right, he's going to start in the nickel and he rotates the safety, or maybe he starts almost looking like a safety and it comes down and plays underneath zone coverage. Some of the position versatility that like Josiah Scott showed throughout his NFL career, and they got creative with him. So I actually wrote down Josiah Scott as I was watching him, former Eagles corner. That's why I think when you're looking at Brandon Johnson, like at his best, I think you're looking like 5th corner, could chip in on special teams. He will need to like really, really chip in the 3rd phase of the game if he's going to make it. I didn't see an ideal starter as a nickel corner.
Yeah, 5'9", 179. Like you said, I was in that defense with Jabbar Muhammad, who is it's the superior prospect coming out, but both you're probably looking at slot type players. Very good defense at Oregon. But it is, the Eagles. One thing in speaking to Howie Roseman in the past, they thought they didn't have enough bodies in the slot in training camp. It was 2 years ago in particular. They tried to rectify that last year, but then what happens is Britton Covey, I'm sorry, not Britton Covey, Cooper DeJean gets injured during the summer. Is not there at the beginning of camp. They moved James Bradbury inside. So, what I think the Eagles want is to have more options in the slot this year. And,
good point.
they were in his position in the past, for instance, speaking about undrafted guys, where they once kept Mario Goodrich because they just didn't have other options in the slot. So I agree with you that, that obviously Mac McWilliams is ahead of him here, 5th round pick. And as you said, the better player. But after that, I mean, I know Adoree Jackson has inside outside versatility. Yep. They don't have a lot of slot only players on that roster. So that would be where Brandon Johnson fits in. So then the next corner is BJ Mays. What can you tell me about BJ Mays?
Yeah, he's another guy, younger senior, 4 years, spent 2 years at Incarnate Word, which is where Cam Ward, the number 1 pick, he began his career at Incarnate Word. So he's played 2 years there, then transferred up to UAB for 2023, then transferred again to Texas A&M. And he actually had his most productive season this past year. Had 6 interceptions as kind of like a part-time like role player. Played mostly in the slot. There's a player, Zach, correct me, see if you can refresh my memory here. There was a corner, I want to say it was the final Chip Kelly season, 2015. He was an undrafted free agent, bigger corner, played like inside, outside. I want to say he made the 53 or he was close to making it in 2015. As I was like reading the profile just now, like getting ready for the show, I'm like, yeah, he kind of reminded me of this guy. Of that profile, but either way, we'll see if it comes to
me. So it was an undrafted player. Then you're thinking of Denzel Rice, maybe.
Yes, it was Denzel Rice. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So and this is because he's a 6-foot slot corner is kind of unusual. He is definitely quicker than fast. He ran the mid 4.5s at his pro day, and I think that lack of speed does show up on tape. He's just not like a super explosive player. That said, like, has had a lot of production, has gotten his hands on a lot of throws over the course of his career. I think, and this together consistently like kept transferring up and got more and more production as he moved up. So I think it's a fine bet to make. I wasn't blown away by the tape. I thought that Johnson probably had a little bit more like coverage chops, a little bit more instinctive player, but Mays just comes in the bigger package. He's a guy I'm interested to get a longer look at here in the summer, but I don't know that I'm necessarily too like fired up about what his chances would be even to make this practice squad.
Yeah, so he was at UAB for a year. The 2023 UAB secondary included Mac McWilliams and BJ Mays. So something to think about there. And his coach at Incarnate Word was GJ Kinney, former Eagle. He had 1 year with GJ Kinney. So I can't imagine the Eagles had to do much work talking to GJ Kinney all these years later about it. But just some Eagles connections.
I'm sure a conversation was had.
There you go. So just some Eagles connections there. And then let's sneak one running back in here before the break. So you have upside, but fighting for an NFL future, ShunDerrick Powell. Then you have Montrell Johnson, and then we'll get to Lance Dixon. So either Powell or or Montrell Johnson? Your pick for which one to go with here.
Well, let's go with ShunDerrick Powell. Number one, made it into Bo's the best names piece just before the draft, and it's just a outstanding category that he was put in there. The running back from Central Arkansas, another fourth-year senior, which is also, this is an interesting through line as well. Look, notice in this class, there's a lot of young seniors. We're doing these pieces for like Dallas and for Arizona, Chicago. It's a lot of like sixth-year guys, older players. The Eagles seem to have said, all right, we're gonna bring in younger seniors with this group. So that was one consistent thing I noticed. But he was an FCS All-American as a true sophomore a couple years ago, had 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns. He's really undersized, 5'7", 183 pounds, ran 4.4 at the pro day, and the all the explosive numbers are really, really strong. The shuttles, like the lateral quickness stuff, really, really bad. So it's just, you kind of paints the picture of what kind of an athlete he is. The straight line juice definitely shows up. What you want with him is everything like straight line. Let's just get him on a path and just go. A lot of the stuff in space, you can get him into space where he doesn't have to like quickly navigate through traffic and kind of pick his way through, where you have to like gear up, gear down. That's really beneficial. So if you can get him going in the screen game, draws, anything where it's just like, just take off and go. That's where you saw a lot of success with this player. I remember watching him against Arkansas State. He hit a screenplay for a big gain down the left sideline. Now could he return kicks? Can he show that he's got some pass game chops? What is he as a blocker? He did all of these things at Central Arkansas, but now it's about trying to prove it in the NFL. There was a player that I was like, okay, like could he do what Raheem Mostert did when he was coming out of Purdue here in Philadelphia in 2013? He ended up flashing, didn't make the Eagles 53-man roster, where we know went on to have a long NFL career. He's smaller than Mostert was, but I think it's that idea, right? Where it's like, okay, like a smaller back with explosive juice. Does he have the ability to just kind of, show that he can prove it and then work his way up an NFL depth chart? That's the uphill battle here for Powell.
Shout out to you for watching Central Arkansas versus Arkansas State. That's the Arkansas viewers are going to appreciate that. And speaking of Arkansas adjacent viewers, award-winning listener, or I should say award-winning listener, a loyal listener, devoted listener, Mitchell G corrected me last week when I said that Central Arkansas is the Sugar Bears. The women's basketball team is the Sugar Bears. Okay. The rest of them, the rest of the teams are just the Bears. So only the women's only the women's sports get sugar in front of it. They are just the Bears. So the Central Arkansas Bears, that's where ShunDerrick went to school. So
that's a really strange delineation that I feel like I need to do a little bit more digging into.
Yeah, but I just want to make that clear.
I don't know if I feel totally comfortable with why that's the case, but
but I had said the Sugar Bears. I appreciated Mitchell listening. And
no, they are the Sugar Bear. I think if they're going to do that, I think that every team,
the Sugar Bears, I mean,
I am going to only call them the Sugar Bears.
Yeah, be distinctive, purple and white. I know that. That's the Central Arkansas. We are going to get to Montrell Johnson right after these messages. Let me tell everybody right now about our friends at Bet365, because this is the time of year when I'm watching more games, not necessarily for work, but for fun. And maybe I have, a Dodgers Marlins game on at 11 o'clock at night, like I had the other night. And Andy Paez is up the bat. And I'm thinking, all right, I want a little juice on this. So I want a little Sugar Bear on this, right? So I'm going on to Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide. They live stream 780,000 events each year. They have early payout offers across NBA and NHL. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. So you could be up late watching games on the MLB ticket, and you have the Bet365 app up on your phone. This is a Wednesday, this is a Thursday. All these days are blending in together. But just go to Bet365. If you're watching the NBA playoffs with Bet365, they have the early payout offer where you're a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And we've seen enough games this year where teams get up 20 points. Breaking news from Bet365, new customers now get a $150. They get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and older, physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And now we'll hear from our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services, because if you've been listening to this show for months now, then like Ace is not just the home of the helpful hardware, folks. It's also where you're going to be able to get the best hardware home service that money can buy. And you might be asking yourself, all right, well, what am I going to get from Ace that I can't just get from like our local handyman? So what does Ace Hardware Home Services bring? Well, Ace, whenever they get ready for the next job, they remember what to bring. They bring experience. They're local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals, and the job is not completed until you are satisfied. And they bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. Free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and for your budget. Service you can trust. Satisfaction guaranteed. Ace Hardware Home Services are local. Their teams live and serve in your community and are dedicated to keeping their neighbors comfortable in their home. You can visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
So just to call out here to a few great PHLY events we have coming up. First off, Tuesday night next week. I don't know how many spots we have left because last I checked, there were only 4, and they might have been taken since then. But
Yeah.
Fran's film session, we're talking about the undrafted players. Fran's going to break down all these draft picks. Film, you'll see why the Eagles took these players from someone who could be working as an Eagle scout himself. So Fran's film session live from the PHLY studio. That's Tuesday night, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And then coming up on June 14th, okay, this is golf season for a lot of you. Saturday, June 14th is the second annual PHLY Liberty Open. 2 p.m. shotgun start, which, as I learned yesterday, means everyone starts at the same time. That's an important thing to understand there. Valley
What
Brook.
was your interpretation of that definition before?
I did not know, and I was afraid to bring it up. So, Valley Brook Country Club. And look, this is an awesome event. Get together with different diehards. Get together with PHLY hosts and behind the scenes people. So many people that make PHLY and ALLCITY run. That's the second annual PHLY Liberty Open. Make sure you check that out, and you can register on allphly.com. Before we get to Montrell Johnson, who big college player who had a huge run against Miami, right? And so jumps out to me. But I need to ask you this because this consumed too much of my time this morning. Where are you on Real ID? Do you have a Real ID yet?
I don't have it yet. I'm going to be getting it soon.
Okay.
It's a sore subject in our house, and rightfully so, because it's, I would say, like, for you and I, this process is going to be much easier. For the women in our life, it is extremely hard, a lot harder, exponentially more difficult to acquire a Real ID, which we can get into all the reasons why. It's like one of the many things that is wrong with the way we go about things in our society. But it's extremely difficult for Meg to be able to track down a Real ID. It was easier for her to get her passport renewed and got that turned around faster than it was to get a Real ID, which insane. Like they're everything is like, oh, get your Real ID, get your Real ID, get your Real ID, and you can't get an appointment anywhere. You have to go. There's only like 3 places in within an hour's drive that you can go to. It's nuts. And unfortunately, Meg was unable to get it a couple weeks ago. So now I'm going to try, and I got to go and find some documentation. It's easier for me to do it since, again, because of all the different hoops to jump through. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. So you put it well there. We've been seeing these messages. We hear, all right, you gotta get a Real ID. So, all right, I get all our documents together. This morning dropped, I look it up. The place opens at 8:30. Okay. Drop the kids off at the bus, or, the kids get on the bus at, 7:05 a.m. And we and I go to a 7:15 gym class together. Okay. Ends at 8. So, all right, we have more than enough time to get here. And I'm like, we're going to be there right away. We're going to be the first in line. We'll be in and out in 10 minutes. You'll be able to get on your work calls at 9. Like, this is how I'm explaining it. We pull up to the Real ID Center in King of Prussia. And I'm telling you, Fran, this was like the last scene in Field of Dreams. This was probably 200 people long. Like,
yep.
And I am befuddled by this, absolutely befuddled. And I'm like, Emily has to get work. I have to start prepping for the show. I told her this was going to be a quick process. Now I'm flummoxed. No. And then I see there's different articles that people have been waiting 4.5 hours in line for this. And I said, wait, I can just use my passport. So for the time being, I'm just going to use my passport. And then hopefully the lines die down. We can go at another time. But I'm with you. There needs to be if this is a necessity, and I don't work in a government building every day. Like, I know if you work in a government building every day, you need this for travel. I'll just be able to use my passport. I don't have a lot of travel coming up, fortunately. Be different if it was the football season, but yeah, if this is a requirement, they need to figure out how to do this more efficiently. And the other thing too is the first time, like, you really feel old, or I shouldn't say first time. Yeah, I really feel old, but you can apply online if you got your first driver's license after 2003, right? So, like, I got my driver's license in 2002, so I just missed the cutoff there. And Emily is a little bit older than me, so she got her driver's license before 2003 as well. So, yeah, there needs to be a more efficient way to do this. If anyone in the chat has any suggestions for Real ID, please let me know.
Or don't, because I've seen a couple of the responses in the chat, which they can go pound sand about, there's no excuse for it to reach this point. No, I think the majority of the people are in our camp about this. And yeah, I mean, Meg was at the King of Prussia one for I think 4 hours, and it was like she showed up, and there was one piece of documentation where it was that, like, you needed this golden stamp. Like, if it wasn't, I think it was the marriage license. If it didn't have the golden stamp, if it had a stamp but not the golden one, then yeah, you had to go. And they didn't have anyone going through line to, like, make sure, like, oh yeah, is all of this right?
So she waited and didn't. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was. I mean, bad. And this, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that would infuriate me. But you know what does not infuriate me? And that's watching Montrell Johnson run. Montrell Johnson here, who you have number 7 on this list, upside but fighting for NFL future. And this is a Florida Gator who had a 71-yard touchdown against Miami. If you go to Fran's article, I'd link to the YouTube on that. He transferred to Florida, but you said to make a trade is athleticism and top end speed. So let's talk about Montrell Johnson here.
Yeah, and there's nothing, when I say, like, the athleticism and top end speed, it's not like, wow, athleticism and top end speed, right? Like, he ran 4.41. That's a good time for a running back, but it's not like, oh man, like, this guy is a special athlete. It's more for the fact that this is a pretty well built runner that also, like, has pretty good athleticism. So it's a good combination of, like, height, weight, speed that gets you excited. He wasn't put through the ringer from, like, a career touch standpoint. So there's plenty of touches left on his body, I would say. And I think you're just I would say it's like a Corey Clement kind of, like, build and skill set. I liked Clement more at Wisconsin than what I saw from Johnson at Florida. This was a deeper running back class, and so it makes sense as to why a guy with his skill set would kind of fall through the cracks and get undrafted. I've been hearing about him off the field for the last couple of years. I had some of his former Louisiana teammates telling me, like, yeah, this is a guy to watch, and that was very early in his career before he transferred to Florida. I watched him work out in Indianapolis because he was a combine invite. I wasn't particularly moved about, like, the pass game stuff that I saw there. I struggle seeing him carving out a role. I thought that ShunDerrick at least had or ShunDerrick, I should say, had at least like that elite speed on film, that elite play speed, where I was like, okay, that's a trait that can kind of separate him. But for both players, it'll be about, what can you do on special teams? Can you show up as a blocker? I thought he was just kind of average across the board.
He came over to Florida with Billy Napier, I believe. So someone there who obviously the coaching staff thought highly of. And then the last one in this category is upside, but fighting for NFL future. And if you're a Penn State fan watching the show, you'll know this name, and that is Lance Dixon. Talking about linebacker Lance Dixon.
Yeah, Lance Dixon, he's at Toledo now, but he started his career at Penn State, was a 5-star recruit out of high school, barely played there for 2 years, then transferred to West Virginia. It's been a couple years there before landing with Toledo this final season. So did not play with Quinyon Mitchell, but still comes from that Toledo program. 6'2", 224. So he's a tall linebacker, but very, very lean. He's got 33-inch arms, so he's got good length for the position. Tested fine at the pro day. Again, not like a special athletic profile. I would say that he looks more athletic on film than what the testing show, which is a little bit of a red flag on my end, but he could close from the backside like that. That's where that athleticism I thought really showed, is where it's like, okay, he's coming from the backside. There's a running, you imagine he's lined up on the left. It's a run to the right, and he's unencumbered and is just running in the open field. And again, he can close and arrive there with bad intentions. There were times where he was like your classic, like weak side linebacker where he was running chase. But then there were other times when they got in their base defense and he's down the line of scrimmage, and he can use his length up against tight ends in like a traditional like Sam linebacker role. I didn't love him like playing downhill through contact. I didn't see a ton of pop on ball carriers. It was like a lot of drag down, like grab the running back and he's going to carry me forward for a couple yards, as opposed to him having stopping power and driving the guy backwards. He didn't create a ton of big plays over the course of his college career. So I think this is your 5-star kid, high pedigree with some athletic talent, and we'll see if he can put it together here in the summer.
So Lance Dixon, like you said there, he was a notable name when he went to Penn State, but 3 schools now. So there is some prospect pedigree there, but certainly not the production that necessarily matches up with it. You texted me about 2 additional names today. That's Jiles Jackson and Darius Cooper, 2 wide receivers who are late additions. So if you're watching this at the 51-minute mark of the show and you read Fran's piece on allphly.com, this is the first time you're getting Fran's review of Jiles Jackson and Darius Cooper.
Yeah, he first, Giles Jackson will start with first from Washington, a 6th-year senior. He's been on my sheet now for like 5 years because he first popped at Michigan as a true freshman back in 2020, where he was all Big Ten as a return specialist. He did return duties out there for Michigan, and there was a lot of thought like this guy's going to end up being a quality receiver for this program, and obviously didn't work out for him there. He kind of slipped through the cracks as other players came in and kind of usurped him in the receiving depth chart. So he ended up transferring to Washington, spent the last couple of years out there with the Huskies. He is he's like an Olamide Zaccheaus, right? Mm-hmm. He's 5'8". He's got really small hands, really short arms. He's pretty dense, 190 pounds for 5'8" is a pretty thick build. The testing was solid. He's not a special athlete, not like a burner, but he's quicker than fast. Never puts the ball on the ground. Really confident hands catcher. A really reliable hands catcher, I should say. Just, not a lot of drops there. Solid route runner. He's not going to burn, in terms of like yards after catch, not going to like wow you there. So this is, again, you're kind of getting into like slot receiver. Can he be like what Britton Covey is? Where we talked about earlier with Taylor Morin, like Giles Jackson's going to fit into that same kind of bucket where it's, undersized slot receiver, punt returner. What else can you do for us, right? Like, can you cover kicks? Can you help us as a blocker, in the RPO game, different things like that. So I think when you're looking at Jackson, that's what he brings. And then when you get to Darius Cooper, extremely, extremely productive at Tarleton State. I ended up just going through all of his targets this morning. The production speaks for itself. 5'11", 213, pretty good length. So he's got solid size. The big thing was like the testing was solid, but he's not a he's not a refined player. Very limited route tree. Only really lined up on the right side, and it was like hitches, goes, slants, and screens, and that's it, right? So you're talking about a very, very unrefined route runner. The speed was just okay. Anytime he had to go up and play above the rim, it was just okay. Like, he's got solid size, but even at that level, didn't always win in those contested situations. Really good flashes of that body control and ball winning ability, but not to the level where it's like, oh man, like he just dominated at that level of competition. Now, again, the production was outstanding, but I would point more towards like scheme and usage as opposed to like natural ability that's going to translate when you're looking there with Cooper. But again, I think it's a fine dart throw. This is a guy that had outstanding production, solid physical tools, and we'll see if he can contribute in camp.
I like that. And then, as we said at the top of the show, there's some tryout players, and so I didn't prep you on this, but there's one player I just wanted to ask you about because he was a well-known college player, so I know you knew him coming into the draft here, and that's Kaimon Rutker from North Carolina, who I think a lot of people thought he was going to get drafted. I'm surprised.
I did.
I'm surprised he wasn't signed as an undrafted player.
Yeah.
He's coming as a tryout guy for rookie minicamp. What's your view on him, and is he someone who can push through?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there are some really good flashes with this player. I thought that he had the ability to turn into like a good like sub package rusher in the NFL. I thought the run game was just okay, and pass game stuff, even like the pass rush stuff, it was a lot of like, I'm just going to run by you. So a lot of the things that I said about like James Pierce Jr., like it was a lot of that. He's that kind of rusher, that high side rusher. But there were some good flashes of violence with him whether it came like to taking on a tight end or playing with a motor, delivering huge hits on quarterbacks. So I thought that there was enough there for me that got me excited to the point where, okay, I'm going to give a backup grade to this player. Covers a lot of ground sideline to sideline. We didn't get a full athletic profile with him, but I spoke with members of that coaching staff during the pre-draft process, and they all liked him. He takes I remember speaking with him at the combine and just talking to him about like pass rush plan and things like that. And it was like, yeah, like there are some players you talk with, and I know you can speak to this too, like where you could tell it's a very like academic, like thoughtful approach to the game, right? Where it's like, it's very like process oriented. And I was pretty impressed after talking with him. And so I talked with one of his coaches. It was after the combine, and he said, yeah, like he does it a little too much, where it's just like, man, like go get the quarterback, right? Like, don't worry about that stuff. Like you're thinking too much about it. Just go. You use your talent in that way. But the big thing is that he had like some eligibility issues this year, because he came back for a fifth year, and like it was up in the air about whether or not he's going to be able to play. And so like the beginning of the season, he couldn't get out there. Finally, they cut him loose, and he ended up having, I know he had like one game where he had like 3 sacks that kind of, he won like, defensive player of the week, all different stuff. And it was after that game, I think it was the Minnesota game or the Virginia, I think it was just a Virginia game. So I watched it in November. He initially was going to go to one of the All-Star games and then ended up not going. Again, didn't participate in the combine. So I think just missing out on the pre-draft process hurt him, but I was shocked he didn't sign a contract after the draft. I thought that there was definitely ability there to be able to work with. And
the fact that the Eagles didn't sign any undrafted rookies at edge rusher stands out here too. So that's a player I'll be paying attention to. Also, one quick anecdote: Nick Sirianni, before the final preseason game, okay, he tells all the players about the value of that final preseason game, especially for undrafted players, guys trying to make the team. And an example that he uses is Austin Eckler, okay, from his time with the Chargers. And one of the players trying out for the Eagles is Wyatt Eckler. A nickelback safety. I'm not sure how we would consider it, from Wyoming. So some interesting stories here. Yeah, there's an Australian rugby player, I believe, who is trying out as well. So I will get the complete roster, probably around 1:45 tomorrow. I will get that roster. I'll tweet out the roster with all the names, then I'll go back tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night to post everyone who came. When we get to overtime, we're going to kind of discuss a bit of rookie camp. But I just have one quick question for you regarding this before we get to overtime. Do you think Jihaad Campbell will be on the field, or do you think it's too soon right now to see Jihaad Campbell tomorrow?
I don't think, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, but I don't think he'll be on the field just based off the conversations I had about Campbell and his health during the pre-draft process.
Yeah, he had the surgery following the combine in March. So it would certainly seem that this will be too soon to see him. So probably the big draw at the rookie minicamp. Well, Drew Makuba, but Kyle McCord's going to be out there. This is like a passing camp more than anything else. And there aren't really wide receivers or running backs. So it's Drew Makuba, Mac McWilliams, Kyle McCord will be guys paying attention. But honestly, just seeing the players in person, I want to ask you who you think I should have a close eye on in rookie minicamp during the 15, 20 minutes I get to watch practice. And we are going to hear that answer in over. Boom. Thanks for sticking with us here. And outstanding work as always, Julia.
You
but
can't jump until after.
What's
Or
that?
if you're going to say it, you have to say it leading in, otherwise your audio gets cut off.
Wait, did I screw that up again? It's my fault. I thought I say it and then it goes into it. So I thought I say overtime. I'm sorry. You see, Bo's watch this down. Bo's like, Zach needs to get out of that host seat. Honestly, I'm trying not to Wally pit Bo here. Right? I'm trying to everything I can do to accentuate Bo. I'm trying to do that. You know, it's important to me that I look. Everyone has different styles of hosting. I think when you're a host, you're trying to build up the other person instead of tearing them down, right? And so I'm trying to build up the host as well. So that would be Bo when he steps in here. So who should I be watching when we watch camp?
You know, I would be, me personally, Mac McWilliams is the guy I'd be most excited for, just to see him out there, you know, just seeing how he looks. But yeah, it's all the skill guys. You know, you want to be able to see, you want those guys to be able to stand out when it's shorts and a t-shirt, right? Like, you're not going to get a ton out of the offensive linemen. You'll be able to see like how athletic they are, but they're not going to be doing like one-on-one drills or anything. As far as I know, they usually don't during rookie camp. So, yeah, I mean, I think those would be the names, right? You know, obviously, some of these undrafted free agent receivers, you get eyes on them. Is there anyone that you're going in most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see McCord, of course,
Sure.
but then probably I want to see the O lineman in person, right?
Yep.
I want to see if Cameron Williams is playing guard or tackle. You know, and so they're obviously not playing 11 on 11 tomorrow, but you can kind of see by the types of sets he's taken, if he is guard or tackle. So that's something I just want to see where he's starting out. But honestly, just being back in the field, you know, smelling the grass, so to speak, that always excites me. You know, I think I'm embarrassed to say that it was yesterday night at like 9:20, and Emily's like, "Man, you need practice to start again. You're already restless, right?" I'm like, "It's been a day and a half of this," but I am eager to get back on the field. You've been rolling here. You say you're going to the Phillies game this weekend. Are you going to get a chance to not watch film for one weekend here?
Yeah, this is definitely where things slow down a little bit for me. So I'm watching film during the day, you know, when I'm here at the office. I'm going to have a 2026 like too early mock draft I'll put out.
I can't wait. I love those.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, everyone loves those. I feel like a lot of them have already gone to market already. I was focused on these undrafted free agents because I felt like I wanted to try and beat rookie minicamp out with those. So I'll get that done. Yeah. Outside of that, it's going to start. Honestly, after that, it'll be a lot of watching film for 2026 and, you know, doing my like team by team reports, like going back and rewatching, listening back to all the press conferences and all the post draft content, all the draft room exclusive stuff. So that's going to be a lot of my time now during the day, you know, moving forward over the next 2-3 months.
That's awesome. If anyone is looking for something to do tomorrow night, okay, Friday, May 2nd, I'm going to be at the Bucks County Book Fest. Okay. And so this is like a bar crawl where authors are there to speak. So it's a pretty cool event. I'm going to be speaking at 2 of these bars. On the schedule, you would see 3. So there's some scheduling things that I need to figure out. But I will be there at Artifact at 7 o'clock, 7 to 7:40. And I will be at the Hattery 8 to 8:40. And so I will move from venue to venue. You can be there enjoying, enjoying the scene, books and beers. And I'm on panels with Mike Sealski and Dave Brown. So that's a cool event. So make sure
Cool.
everyone checks that out. And we will have all your updates from rookie minicamp. Tomorrow's show, once I confirm with them, you'll hear our friends and colleagues, Jamie Lynch and Rich Hoffman. I will join from NovaCare. I'll have that window open so the sun will be shining. I will have my Shady Rays in hand for training camp. And we'll be back next week. And the best news about next week is some point later in the week, Bo Wolf will be back joining us. So can't wait for that. Fran, you're dominating as always. Julia, best head of production in the game. This was fun. I will see you tomorrow from Rookie Minicamp. For Fran Duffy, for Julia Hoff, I'm Zach Berman. Bo will say, as always, we love you. I will say, we'll do better tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
We all silly like the mayor.